All right, hello everybody, and welcome to your April 1st lighting critique. So, end of the month, beginning of the month, you know what that means usually. It means the end of the Ashley Lighting Challenge, and it was incredible. I always say that you guys make the selection process of picking a winner so difficult, and I don't know how like, Jasmine and I went back and forth on it for a while this morning, and we're like, we don't know how to do this, so we're gonna figure it out. There are just so many incredible image submissions, and we're so excited to go through them. So, but with that, when one ends, another begins. So we have our little our scene we're calling My Buddy the Robot, and it's just a little girl sitting in a window. She's got fuzzy slippers, sweatpants, and her little robot buddy. Let's see, where's he at? Yep. Just him sitting there next to her reading a book. And yeah, they're just hanging out in this room. Let's see, there should be another one. Oh, I thought I had... There's an inside view too where there's a bunch of interior set pieces as well. Actually, I'm going to pull that up real quick. Just so you guys can get a full scope of the room. Yeah, this one. So you can see, like, there's the set sitting. We've got some picture frames. We've got some lamps. We've got some other stuff over here too. But full scene, you guys can play around with it, place the camera wherever you want, make it happy, make it sad, make it warm, make it comforting, make it, if you want to make it raining outside. Ashley, you just did an amazing raining look with your Ashley image, and so you could just keep that going, whatever you did there. All right, cool. So we've got a few still images, and we'll start with Aaron's update to the animated shot here in Sync Sketch. All right. Fire it up. So we've got the previous version here. Let's start with that. We're walking in, update. Yeah, that bounce level on her looks a lot better. It's still dark. It's still like it fits the space, but it's a good. It's a good read on her. It doesn't compete with the key light. Yeah, that works out really well. See, there was something else that you noted. One other update, right? What was the other big update on this?
You had me take out some of the brightness on his eyes at some point, so I just took down the spec AOV on his eyes.
Yeah, that looks a lot better.
Yeah, I want to say at one point because I went into my scene and I had the fill light in there, and I was like, I feel like at one point we had put it in, and then it was like, no, she gets too warm, so I took the fill that I had originally, and then I rotated it a bit more front facing so that it's not like directly in her face. It's more like it's pointing from our direction a little bit, and then I cooled it down, and I think I had to actually animate the intensity of it a little bit. So I don't know if that feels bad.
No, it feels right. Like it feels like she's entering. There's some there, and then like and then she actually builds because it looks like there's a light off camera here. And that builds up on her. I think it's perfect. I think it's the right amount throughout. The only thing, the very last thing, because I think everything else looks great, and the only thing I'm thinking is that there's a little bit of a difference in the warmth and the temperature between this light and this light, and I'm wondering if we shouldn't warm that up a little bit around her.
Sure.
And I think that's it. I think it's just to match that up a little bit better. I think that would work out well. And then, yeah, I think that's it. I think this looks great. How you feeling about it?
Good. I'm nervous about rendering it.
Good. If you were feeling overly confident, then that would. We do have. I mean, check the resources. We do have the conductor render farm that you can utilize. I'm trying to get another one too, but there are some render farm services that you can utilize as well.
So I think we looked into one of them, and I mean, we can talk about this maybe later offline, but like, do you get a sense of what it's going to cost you prior to you sending it off to them? Because it feels like you just get your bill later.
Yeah, like it kind of is. I mean, like you can ask them. The guy who runs the conductor render farm is a guy named Mac, and you can talk to him about, like, I wonder if they have an estimator or just like a conversation you can have with him about, like, hey, you know, because you have a rough idea, right? Like, hey, this is my machine at home. It takes X number of minutes to render each frame. I'm doing this many frames. Like, can you give me like a cost estimate? Because I know they give like a $200 credit to our students. And then it's yeah, because that is a tricky one. Because it'll be like, they'll just calculate it in render hours. And you're like, I don't know what that means. So,
you know, the longest one on this is my environment render. So even if I just sent that off to them,
yeah.
The other renders, like the little girl, doesn't take very long.
Yeah,
I could do a bunch of renders on my end too. So
yeah, that makes sense to me too, to just do the environment. So, yeah, and if you can get away from breaking, because like the camera doesn't move, and we did that on purpose. You can, if you can break up the elements that are animated, like if there's like a volumetric light that's animated or something, you can. Like if you wanted to just render, like you can, for the background, you can do like only once she starts, like you can do like starting at frame 50 and then render, like you can cut off the first 50 frames because there's really nothing moves about it until she opens the door. Then you've got her shadow and everything like that. And you could do that separately, but yeah.
Honestly, I could do the entire background one thing. Should I be like looking more into doing separate shadow passes?
It depends.
Is that like some?
Yeah, I mean, I try not to. I don't mind a little bit of a longer render time because I think all that stuff baking together. I mean, like theoretically, if you break it up into separate passes, if you do it right, it'll look exactly the same. But for me, I tend to like to keep some things together. Sometimes I try to not overcomplicate my comp unless I know that I need to make an adjustment to that shadow. Because like if I feel like it's looking pretty good initially, then I'm pretty okay with it. Okay. Because it used to be, I used to be of the mindset of like break it out as much as you can to give yourself the flexibility in the comp. Now with AOVs, you can do that pretty easily. Now we have kind of an opposite problem where things get so complex so quickly, so easily that I try and be more mindful about how I'm breaking things out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't hold up the review or anything, but maybe I'll look more into it.
Yeah, look into it. Let me know if you have questions. I can hop on a call or something sometime. We can walk through it a little bit more.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right. So next up we have, well, we'll talk about Tristan. We got yours up here. Tristan just sneaking in before the deadline again. You're very impressive with that. So I like this. I like this coming around his face a little bit more. I think that works out really well. I think the eye white can get a little whiter in this region. The glowiness up here looks really good. One of the things that I look at with this kind of stuff is I just take a little data pic of it, and I just like there's nothing that's ever really going to be brighter in our frame than something like this. So I really want to make sure that this is going white. And right now this one is, and this one's just like a notch off of it. So I think you can push this one a little bit brighter. It might be because there's like a vignette in there, and you want to pull that off of the very bright areas. It's just like it's just a thing because you're like literally this light source is like it's got to be as bright as it can go. Right. And then I think what we can do with the hair, because the hair looks a little bit dusty to me, in that it's kind of, I think we can darken the core value of it and really push the specularity on it. Because we've got this like these big broad light sources kind of coming in here. It could create like specky goodness on his hair, and we can just take like some of this diffuse value can come down because it kind of flattens out with that. I think the X-rays themselves are looking pretty good now. Like I said, the shaping on his nose and everything like that looks really good. The subsurface on his ear looks a lot better. I'm wondering if we should make his shirt a little whiter. It's kind of similar to his coat. Just kind of get that to separate a little bit more. But yeah, I think that's about it. I think it's looking good otherwise.
Cool.
Yeah, really nice job. All right, and we've got Brenda here. So hello, Brenda. And this is your first submission of Sir Desmond Rotundus.
Yes.
So for out of the gate, the first thing, and here's her making me nostalgic for Harry Potter reference. So out of the gate, you've got a couple things working really, really well for you, which is a challenge with this character, and that is the look of the skin, the look of the leatheriness, the battiness of the wings, all that stuff you've already got. Like that's one of those that usually that's usually like my first step when critiquing this character, is making sure that all that stuff is in place. You've got a nice warm feel in the skin on his face. There's a little bit of specularity in the fur, and all that's great. I love this little bit of speck coming through the hat. All of that is looking really, really good. So you've got weird light on the toenails, which I love. I hate / love at the same time, just because you're like, ugh, and that feeling. So the character itself is set up really well, which is a huge part of it. Like that's 80% of the battle with any time that we're lighting this. Now I really want to focus in on the environment lighting and what's going on around him. So one of the things about this, which one was I looking at? So I was looking at this one, and this is like there's kind of a cool overhead light, and there's some really nice dark values in the background here that really allow things to kind of pop forward. Same thing here. There's like, the focus around the characters, dark values here, dark values here. I think that we can kind of do the same thing here where we have this nice area of light and pool of light, but then as we get down here into the corners, we should work on darkening these a little bit. It doesn't need to be quite that rich blackness that we're seeing in the reference, maybe over here, but and over here because it's got a little bit of light, it should be a little brighter. But I really want to work on getting some more vignetting darkness around the character. And the other thing, let's see. I think that we can tone down because there's two main light sources going on here, right? There's whatever light's off camera that's hitting him frontally, and then there's this kind of moonlight that's coming in from behind. I think the lighting that's on the character right now looks really good from that frontal light, and it does provide shaping and all that, so it's not super frontal, but it's just I think we can de-emphasize the light coming in from behind. Not so much on him because I think it's working really well in getting some of these areas, but just overall in the environment we can take it down. And really what that's going to do is just kind of create more contrast in the shot as a whole. And I think that's and not so much on him but on the environment around. So let me just see if I can mimic that real quick. So if we darken some of this stuff back behind him, something more like that, and then you just erase him. That's a little chunky, but something more like that, and then minus. Anytime you do that, it increases saturation. So let's put the saturation a little bit. Oh, preview. Something a little bit more like that. To really kind of ground it
looks nicer.
Yeah, and you can because the character is so small, you can play with a little bit of depth of field behind him as well, and see if you like that too. Actually, we can probably, the way that I have this set up now, we can probably mock that up a little bit too. Because
that's really good. This looks like the Tonks reference, I think, too.
Right? Yeah, like something like maybe along in this line. I think would work well.
Okay.
Let's see the top.
Cool. I'll work with that.
Yeah, you're right. Because it's just that's a very specific pool of light.
Cool.
Yeah, great reference, by the way. It's amazing. One of the things I really liked about those films. I mean, I loved the books when I was younger, but I also really like the way that the look and style of the films adapted with the age of the audience. In the style, if you go back and watch a part of the first one, it's very, very like haunted mansion ride at Disney World. It's dark, but it isn't. It totally isn't. It's totally studio lighting. It's the Indiana Jones in the cave thing. There's just lights everywhere. And if you watch the last one, it is dark. It is moody. So yeah, I think stylistically. The Harry Potter films do a really good job of just kind of spanning that whole, the whole spectrum of how you can portray that world in different ways to different audiences. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was a grown up throughout the entire. I was a full adult throughout the entirety of the films, but I appreciated that.
Yeah.
So let me get this thing off the screen. There we go. All right, cool, great job there. And then last up we have.
Thank you.
Yeah. And last up we have Ashley here. So okay, so this one's looking a lot better. I like the camera placement on this. Coffee cup sizes look really good. I think there's room for more warmth from the outside light. Like if we push, and this is gonna be a little bit janky, but like because like if you've ever seen, and I'll tell this story. I moved into a house that had very it was the first time I lived in a house with a lot of hardwood. It was an old house, and one of the things that really blew me away was when sunlight comes in and hits the hardwood, it just kind of makes the whole room glow with this warmth, and it kind of just like, so when direct sunlight like this comes in, it just bounces the heck out of warm light. And so I think we can move towards that a little bit more. Let me go back to this. And then the other thing I want to do, there's a little bit of shaping on this wall back here, but it feels pretty gray, and it feels pretty dark overall. I do like the fade out of it though. I think it can get a little bit of bright, warm light around, like right around the window, and then it can fade off into the coolness a little bit. And this darker value can come up just a little bit, but I think that like these plants is looking really good. Like the amount of like broad specular highlight on there is looking really nice. For me, again, it's all about the warmth, and then I would tone down the saturation outside the window a little bit, because I think those greens, especially in those greens, are really feeling punchy out there. Bring that down just a little bit. Yeah, that feels a little more natural. And you can play around again. This is a smaller scene. You can play around with depth of field in this space too, because it wouldn't, like at this scale, it wouldn't exactly work out where all this stuff would be in focus and then that would be out of focus. It almost feels like we have an opportunity here to, it feels like this foreground stuff is probably more in focus, and then allow a little bit of that to like it to go to like a 3 to 5 pixel blur as we get to the back of the table, and then it steps to the more exaggerated blur outside, or something along those lines, because again we're kind of focused on a very small area. But yeah, this is looking great overall. It just needs that added warmth. I think it's like there's a term for it, and it's like HYGGE. It's a Scandinavian term for like the Heige. I don't know how to say it. But it's like if you just Google that or look for that on Pinterest, there's a bajillion images of like soft blankets and coffee by a window and warmth, and just like everything kind of fused together. Like, I'll probably just do it right now. What did I lose then? Oh, I think I lost my. Let's do this real quick. Yeah. So it's basically like all of these like super, like, do you see how much like warmth is bouncing around in there? Like if you look at this white chair, how much orange is kind of bouncing around in there, and it's like, yeah, it's all these like fireplace things, and just I'm thinking of that when I look at yours, and just like adding like subtle more warmth value into the scene to kind of get this overall look. And I think that'll be good. So that's all we have for today. Does anyone have any questions about anything? Oh, tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time, we're announcing the winner for the lighting challenge. We'll do the normal critique. Actually, did I say noon? It might be noon tomorrow. I can't remember what time I said. But tomorrow afternoon, after this daily critique, we will be announcing the winner of the lighting challenge. But yeah, anything else before we break for the day, guys? All right, I think we're all good. All right, be good, everybody. I'll talk to you all soon.
All right.
All right, happy lighting, everybody. Bye.